Hi, my fellow ink drinkers. Welcome to Dark Violet Dreams, where I share my love of books, movies, and other deliciously dark delights. Today, I'm sharing some recent reads. I read 6 books in the month of January and just finished up a 7th as of February 2nd. So I wanted to share some of these books and my thoughts on these books. You can always go to my Goodreads or Instagram to kind of see more cohesive thoughts, I guess. But if you like to hear me babble, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. The first book that I finished in January was Lie Like the Devil. I gave this 5 stars. It is by Birgitte Märgen. It was an ARC ebook, and it was 319 pages. If you like cultish / Silence of the Lambs type vibes, kind of detective stories, mysteries, I think you'll like this. I really enjoyed it. The writing was done in such a way that I could zoom through it. It didn't take me long to read it, and I am so glad that I gave it a chance. I found a new favorite author. I will definitely read more from this author. The second book I finished was also an ARC, and it was an ebook. It was Candle Horror by Robert Weaver. I also gave this 5 stars. We were off to a great start as far as reading goes in January. The sea contains the blood of lovers lost in the throes of a quarrel. Once their isolation was their safety, but the soul lights have found them on the island, draped in persistent fog. Bargains made are bargains reclaimed. Now their isolation will be their doom. This was 102 pages, and again, I read this within a week. It was excellent. Again, there's a lot of mystery surrounding these main characters. Why are these things happening to them? Lots to love here. I believe Candle Horror comes out on March 7th, 6th. I will put the correct date here, and you can pre-order the ebook. So definitely hop on that. Robert Weaver is a huge favorite of mine. I have loved everything that I have read from him so far, and I've got a few to catch up on, and I plan on doing that soon. The next book I read is a paperback. This was also a review copy. This book is out. You can check it out now. It is called Second Coming by John James Minster. It is a Christian apocalyptic horror, and I was a little bit nervous going in, to be honest, because I grew up with that kind of fear, I guess. I don't want to say fear-mongering, but well, I grew up with the message of the end times, really heavily focused on Revelations. And honestly, as a kid, I avoided that book of the Bible like my life depended on it, because the things that I knew scared me. So I was nervous about this because I didn't know where he was going to go with the story, how it was going to kind of play out as far as the message goes and things like that. But this was such an interesting story. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It is 283 pages. So it starts off following this young kid. He's, I think, a 3rd grader, and they are experiencing a worldwide flood. And so this 3rd grader leads a few of his fellow classmates to kind of higher ground, and they start a whole new community. And so it jumps ahead to a few different perspectives, but it follows people that are heading to this community years and years later. I think it was like 20 years later, after a second flood. And there are creatures / humans that have kind of evolved or something, called the Golgoths, who are cannibals, and they paint their bodies white, and they hunt humans that are just out out in the towns, out on the roads. And so these people have to carefully make their way to this community, and they're preparing for a battle. And that's all I'll give you for this, but it was a great read if you can handle a lot of religious, I wouldn't say undertones. I mean, if you can handle religious horror, a lot of biblical talk and things like that, this is not preachy. I mean, some of the characters can come across as a little preachy. The story itself doesn't feel preachy. There's a whole lot to this. So if you are a little bit nervous about any type of biblical, religious, Christian horror, if you have questions for me, please feel free to ask. There is one character in here who I despised, and I was getting a little bit nervous because of the things that she would say and the ways that she would act. And I was really crossing my fingers that she would get what's coming to her, because everything about her felt wrong. Without spoiling, I was comforted by some things, you know, that happened. But that was kind of hard to read. So if you have any sort of sensitivities, there are possible triggers. There are definite content warnings in this book that cover most everything. So please feel free to reach out. The next book I read was kind of a last minute choice. It was for Werewolf Winter that E.D. Lewis is hosting all winter long, and basically you read whatever werewolf stories you'd like. And so I had this on my Kindle. I believe I snatched it up when they were doing some sort of freebie event or something. This is the cover that I received. There's an alternate cover, and I don't know which one is newer. Both beautiful, but I love the one with the wolf and the witch on the front. So that's the one that I chose to use. This was a 3-star read for me. And like I said, it was an ebook. The Wolf and the Witch is by Maisie Mack, and it is 186 pages. So this is book 1 in a series, and I enjoyed it. The reason I gave it 3 stars is because it was enjoyable, but there wasn't enough meat for me. So this witch is trying to protect herself from some creatures in this forest, and there is an alpha werewolf who is trying to get in touch with his daughter. I'm sorry if my brain is scrambled and there's a lot more to it, but he needs to find this witch to get some answers, get some help in basically rescuing his daughter. And so a lot happens. Werewolves and witches are not friends in this series, and well, it's a dark fantasy romance, so we'll just leave it at that. I'm glad I got to fit in a werewolf book. Hopefully I can fit another one in soon before winter is over, but we've got all of February. I'm just trying to read a lot of the things that are on my shelves and already on my Kindle, and so I was glad that I could find a werewolf book for Werewolf Winter. Definitely check out Edie's channel if you have not already, and join in on the werewolf fun. The next book I read was another advanced reader copy, and I got a physical copy from a fellow Michigander, Christopher Tallon. It is called Sleepwalker Angel, and I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. Now, this is not in its final form. He does have copies now, I believe, in the final form. I think I saw a post on his Instagram with a car full of boxes. So I'm excited for him that he has released this amazing story. Now, this is another like cultish, religious kind of horror thriller type book set in northern Michigan. I really loved it. There are some supernatural elements here, definite despicable characters that I just love to hate, and there are some lovable characters as well. He has such a way of making the story flow effortlessly through his writing, and I just love it. So I am honored that I got a sneak peek of this book. The cover is absolutely stunning. Love it. He also wrote the book Switchers, which I have switched things around on my shelves, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure where it is now. It's on my shelf somewhere. I have just done a little bit of reorganizing. My brain was preoccupied with some stuff that was stressing me out. So what did I do? I organized my shelves, as one does. Again, I know I'm kind of glossing over everything, but if you would like to know more, you can ask me. You can go check out my Goodreads reviews and check out my Instagram. Those are the other places that I like to share. I also have a Blue Sky account, but I think it's Blue Sky. I don't get on there as often, and I have a Facebook account as well. And again, I don't get on there as often, but I try to put book reviews up there as often as I can. But Instagram and Goodreads are guaranteed to have any thoughts I have on any of the books I read. Another amazing 5-star read. I was contacted by the lovely Twins in Talent on behalf of James Kennedy and Quirk Books to read Bride of the Tornado. This is probably one of my favorite books so far for 2025. It could possibly be in my top 10 of all time. I loved it. So this follows a girl in a small town and kind of opens up to Tornado Day. And she doesn't really know fully what's going on, but they have to dress kind of old-fashioned and they go to school. This is a high schooler. She has a sister, and they're celebrating Tornado Day. The parents know more about it, but it's kind of a mystery to her. So they gather in the gym of her high school, and these men carry in a box of sorts, a human-sized box of sorts. I was totally thinking like a Dracula type thing, but out pops a boy around her age, a teenage boy around her age, and he is the tornado killer, and he gives this awkward speech, and people give him a hard time. You know, there's hecklers and things like that, but she's pretty fascinated by him, and the story just gets weirder and weirder in the best sort of way. I absolutely loved it. At times, she seemed a little bit younger than her age, and at first, that kind of got to me. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know what? I've always been kind of younger than my age. I've never been caught up to the age I am, maturity-wise. So I sounded younger than I was when I was 17 or 16 or whatever, however old she was. So that ended up not being a bother because I remembered, oh yes, I was this way. I was a little young for my age. Very interesting. This town is surrounded by tornadoes, and the tornado killer keeps them safe. And no one is allowed to touch the tornado killer. This girl is fascinated by him. She sees him watching her, and we just dive further and further into the lore and the history of these tornadoes and the tornado killer and this strange neighbor man that kind of gives off some weird vibes. We'll leave it there. Anyway, really cool book. Got really weird, did not expect that, but it felt so real as I was reading it, so I really appreciate that. Bride of the Tornado by James Kennedy. Definitely check it out. Definitely worth reading. Bride of the Tornado was 351 pages. That concludes January. Now, I did start this next book in January and finished it February 2nd. And this was a book that I received as a gift from one of my Instagram friends, Stephanie. I think it was a birthday present, and I love this so much that my tabs on the side remind me of stained glass windows. It is Solita by Vivien Rainn. Now, this is book 1 in a series about Solita. Let me read the back to you. I don't want to give away too much because this is definitely worth going in as blind as possible. The writing is exquisite. the main character does take a lot of breaths, or lets out a lot of breaths that she's been holding. I did notice that, but that didn't bother me one bit. I was entertained, but this was a 5-star read for me. It is 288 pages, and I am so thankful to have received this book. Let me read the back for you. Faith or fear, pick your poison. Passing through the motions of a life soaked through with the stench of death, Sadie Starling has never strayed from the safety of her home, her only solace, the Hacienda Espinosa. But when she unearths a dark secret, planted deep beneath the floorboards of her family's centuries-old estate, she finally sees a means to alleviate the loss and grief that plague her every waking moment. But there's a toll to be paid. Faith is all she's told she needs as the Hacienda's bloody history threatens to pull her into the grave. Yet who does she believe in when faith and fear become one and the same? Love this. Again, I enjoyed all the books I read, of course. I had, what, 4 or 5 stars? Let me pick up my handy dandy notebook. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. We're off to a great start. I think these 3 are probably my favorite. I don't know if it's because I become more attached to physical copies than e-copies. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But all of these gave me exactly what I need out of a book, in multiple ways. This gave me all the demonic, religious, dark romancy without being explicit vibes that I could want, the religious vibes, the demonic presence, just really digging deep into the inner thoughts of the main character. Loved it. And of course, the amazing writing. This one again gave off a lot of the culty religious vibes that I love in a good book. The writing allowed for me to read quickly and still retain all the information I was reading. I appreciate that so much. And then of course the religious cultish vibes, and you get a little bit of humor, and you get such wonderful descriptions that you seriously feel like you're in the story. You feel like you are in these woods, at these cabins, in the church, anywhere that the main character is. You feel like you're sitting right there watching this story unfold. So I appreciate that. That is it. Those are the 7 books I've read so far in 2025. I am super thankful to have received most of these as gifts or ARCs, and it's such a blessing. So I am currently reading So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. This was a gift from Bad is Rad. She hosted a giveaway and I was the lucky winner. And I am loving it so far. I think I am 3 chapters in. There is enough humor and relatability that I have been marking that one up with my tabs, like I tend to do. Really enjoying it. Nothing vampire-like has happened yet, but we will get there. And I just started that this morning or late last night. I can't remember when I picked it up. I'm also reading Homer's The Odyssey with my teenagers for part of their literature class. We're actually listening to a LibriVox reading of the story, and I have got a little freebie ebook that I have been reading kind of off to the side to fully immerse myself into the story and hopefully understand things. The great thing about my kids' curriculum is that they do kind of they offer a lot of explanation as well for each of the books or chapters. And I do notice it's set up a lot like the Bible, where there's books rather than chapters. And there's, as far as the ebook goes, there are like verses, numbered verses. I don't know what they're calling them. So far, I'm not super like lost in the story, but we will see how things go. I am also still reading Anterior Skies. It is a anthology of like weird fiction that has been edited and put out by C.F. Page. He's amazing. If you have not read Native Fear by C.F. Page, excellent book. but I have been enjoying it. I was out of the house for a couple of days, and there were a lot of breaks at this obligation I had to attend, and so I was reading a lot, and that's what I was reading, but I was not retaining anything because I cannot, for the life of me, read in public. I'm so easily distracted, and I'm so shy, and so that's why I was reading. My breaks were spent reading. So I kind of started over from where I had left off before this obligation took place, and so it might be a while because I read a lot, but I retained very, very little. But I will let you know what I think of the books that I am currently reading in a future video. Thank you for sticking around with my rusty little comeback after a break. January was kind of full of things that were occupying my brain, and I just didn't have it in me after that first week or so to film anything. I was overwhelmed, okay? Overwhelmed with life's demands, we shall say. I'm glad to be back, and I will ease my way back in. I will be back soon, maybe in a week or so, with some Valentine suggestions for movies and books. I call them my Valentine picks, but they're not picks for myself. They're picks for you guys. It's what I would pick for you to watch and read for Valentine's Day. So that is it. I hope you're having a fabulous February so far. Cheers to reading great books, distracting ourselves from all life has to offer. I hope you have an amazing day or night. Until next time, cheers. Ooh, that's good. Kit Kat creamer.